तमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। Okay, so verse 18, it says, Trishu dhamasu yad bhogyam bhokta bhogascha yad bhavet tebhyaha vilakshanaha sakshi chinmatraha aham sadashivaha. These are all contemplative verses based on what we have already seen, right? So when we see the whole beauty of the Upanishad, when the nature of I was arrived at, we did Anandamaya Kosha. Okay, what was Anandamaya Kosha? Yeah, exactly. So that status of being an enjoyer. Okay, so that means then you will, what was said is you're not that the person who enjoys different things which are constantly changing, and the degree of enjoyment that you go through which is constantly changing. You are who? That awareness which is unchanging, within which all the changes are going on. Okay, but you may get stuck with this idea of bhokta. So when you understand that your awareness, that awareness includes not only the enjoyer, it includes what? The object of enjoyment and process of enjoyment. What you have to include is what? The whole. Once you have separated everything and come to awareness, you have to regain what? Not only just the enjoyer, but also object of enjoyment and the process of enjoyment. So here he says, Trisu dhamasu yad bhogyam. Okay? So that means that you are, generally the way we live, you are bhokta. What is bhokta? You are the enjoyer. And what are the bhogyams? Different objects of your enjoyment. How many different objects of enjoyment there are? How many different objects of enjoyment? Infinite different objects of enjoyment. That's why you keep on going. For lifetimes you can keep on going, because world has all kinds of things to keep you amused. Okay? Now, when you understand that you are Atma, are you only the truth of the enjoyer? No, you're also the truth of objects of enjoyment. Every object, the whole universe has to collapse in this Atma. All the different objects of enjoyment that you have, what? TV, spa, everything, how will you collapse into Atma? How will you collapse into Atma? It's not just the enjoyer, which is the mind, and that mind has awareness, but every object of enjoyment also has to collapse in Atma. How? By exactly, everything, please understand, bring back all of this what we have studied. Every whole universe, different objects of enjoyment that we have seen, all gets collapsed into atoms, particles, and ultimately Ishvara, the intelligence. That intelligence which what brings about either some natural forms of enjoyment, which are what? This beautiful flower. Just by looking at it, what? You feel happy. You don't need to do anything. But this collapses in what? Intelligence and awareness. I am Bhokta, this is Bhogya. I am the enjoyer, this is an object of enjoyment. This which is an object of enjoyment collapses in Atma. What is the Atma? Which is sustaining the enjoyer and the object of enjoyment. It is truth of both. There are certain objects which are not just coming ready-made, like TV. It doesn't come, TV doesn't fall from, it doesn't grow on trees. This grows on trees. Does TV grow on trees? No. But it is also Bhogya. It is an object of your enjoyment. In Bombay, whole evening, the only thing people do is watch TV. Most of the middle class. They just have TV on. Object of enjoyment. So much time is spent watching TV. By the time you come home, you are so tired, you can't do anything. All you do is just like a, this what? Couch potato. Just watch. How did this TV come about? It didn't fall. What happened? There was some human intervention. Some kind of discovery, and that's why you come up with so many different possibilities using your brain, creating different objects of enjoyment. There are some which you come with, it's part of Ishvara's Srishti. Some you use, which is you yourself are also part of Ishvara's Srishti only, but you use your intelligence to create new objects of enjoyment. All of them are ultimately resolving in what? Dependence within dependence. What is TV dependent depending on? All the different paths. If you look at the configuration of TV, wires, yes, all the metal, everything put together. So that means that TV itself has a dependent reality. Mithya. Okay. Now that part itself is another part, and that part itself is another part. Ultimately, what is it? Just intelligence.
Why is it I find when I make the breakdown from the flower to the parts, the flower I do enjoy, but the more I go down, the enjoyment goes over.
Yeah, exactly. So this is why, in fact, that is a very good question, right? Imagine all that is here. If you ask a quantum physicist, what is there in this universe? You will have what? Only the tiniest particles which are just moving around, and mostly space. What will you enjoy? Nothing. You won't fall. Our teacher used to say, you will not fall in love with anybody if you saw kidney. If you saw a liver. So that means they have to what? Increase in their arrangement to produce what? Objects which become attractive. When they become attractive, what happens? It keeps you going. You engage. You want so much to have it.
also look at it as, because when it breaks down, ultimately you don't enjoy it because you can't give it that attribute. So because then the more you go.
Yeah, see, it's a fact, right? But that doesn't mean that just because this flower, I mean, this is where Ishvara makes everything attract, and you can enjoy that. Even though you understand the fact that it is just atoms and there is no aesthetics. Here you can actually, what? Enjoy the intelligence which from that atoms it creates this amazing aesthetic. It becomes bhogya. It becomes object of your enjoyment. Okay, so this is what we call the capacity to create a world to keep you busy with all different objects. Our teacher used to say, ultimately he says, oh, people love to travel. What is there? Ultimately there are mountains, there are rivers, buildings, everywhere is the same. But what? Little different to keep you going. This vacation I will go to Switzerland. Next vacation Italy. Keep you going. Okay, all within one design of Ishvara. Different objects. That's why please don't think, I mean, that once you know mithyatvam of the Jagat, you have to be not interested in it. Because this mithya Jagat is all manifestation of Ishvara. And what all is in that mithya Jagat is all wonders. From that particle which has no attraction to you, it's arranged to make it what? To this flower which becomes attractive to you. That is a wonder. And it follows what? The laws of aesthetics. That is, celebrate that capacity to make different objects of enjoyment. Beautifully done.
Can I conclude from that also the enjoyment is mithya?
Exactly. So that means the enjoyer is mithya, the object of enjoyment is mithya, the process of enjoyment is mithya. All three are sustained by what? One reality. Me, the enjoyer, is what? Again, dependent reality. With what do I enjoy this? If I don't have eyes, can I enjoy the object? No. Now this eyes itself, without brain, can it? Everything has dependent reality. Not only this, a flower has dependent reality, the enjoyer also has what? Dependent reality. The mind also, what? Everything, your chemical, electrical circuits, neurons, everything have to move properly to enjoy. That also has dependent reality, which produces that thought of enjoyment. So that means the enjoyer, the object of enjoyment, and even the process of enjoyment. All three are sustained by what? This one reality. It is not only the truth of the enjoyer. It is truth of what? The object of enjoyment and process of it. It has to include everything. That is what we call the vision of the whole. Vision of the whole means it can't leave anything out. It's not like some final thing that I want to be in touch with and eliminate everything else. Elimination of everything else will get you nowhere. It has to encompass everything and understand that what? It is free from everything. This is how, because what is the process of enjoyment? There is an enjoyer, there is an object of enjoyment, and what is the process of enjoyment? Imagine if this flower was there, your mind is there, your eyes are there, and it does send a signal to your signal to your mind that this is a flower. But if your mind is preoccupied in thinking about how will I go back now? What all I have to do? I have to pack my bags and all. Will there be an enjoyment? Everything is there. But the process of enjoyment is not there. The object, which can be the object of enjoyment, is there. The eyes are there. The eyes are sending signal to the mind is also there. But there is no enjoyment. In order for that process of enjoyment to be there, what is necessary? The mind has to be available. The one time you can be just, because your mind has leisure, you can be so happy seeing the flower, but when your mind becomes preoccupied with something else, this awareness is what the truth of what is that process. Your mind has to be available. Your mind has to be available means what? That it is not distracted by something else. So you let it flow. That pleasure is what? Unobstructed by your cloudiness.
Is the enjoyer gone when the mind is occupied?
Sorry?
Is the enjoyer gone, or is it only has it no access to the joy?
I don't understand.
When
That word,
is the enjoyer gone?
Gone.
No access.
So this is why in order to enjoy anything, you need three things. You need an object. Without object, right? You need the enjoyer, the person, and you need that process, because the person can be there, the object can be there, but you have to have right disposition. Your mind has to be available. Three conditions have to, all three have to come into alignment in order for your experience of enjoyment to happen. So this is why sometimes when you go to a restaurant, you really enjoy and you want to repeat that experience because you think that it is going to. But next time you went to the same restaurant but your stomach is upset, what will happen? The object, the food is exactly the same. Object of enjoyment is still there. You, the potential enjoyer, is there. What is obstructed? The process. Okay, so that means now, who are you? Generally we think I am only the enjoyer. Now what does Upanishad say? The new understanding of who I am, to make sure that I am not still stuck to that enjoyer, what does it do? It says, you are not just the enjoyer, you are what? Truth of the enjoyer, the object of enjoyment, and the process of enjoyment. This is what is meant by Upanishad when they talk about I. What is the problem we have? We continue, whether we recognize or not, we continue to identify with only the enjoyer. So it has to negate that by saying that Atma that Upanishad is talking about is truth of all three. All those are variable. Objects are many. My moods are different. Sometimes my eyes are not available. So all this is all changing. There is one thing which sustains all three, which is non-changing, that is Atma. Okay? It wants to make sure that you are going out of this little individuality without your recognizing it. You keep on working within only that. Frees you from that. Okay? So, and Trisu Dhamasu. These objects of enjoyment and the enjoyer in different, not here we are talking only about earth, but Shastra talks about what? Different lokas, different places where you have what? Different bodies, and you have different objects of enjoyment. So that's why we hear what? That sorry? Star Wars, I don't know. That is, Shastra doesn't talk about Star Wars. So, yes. But it's true, what she's saying is right. This is a product of modern thinking. Anything beyond this earth is Star Wars. Right? So you have, our Shastra has its own Indraloka, Brahmaloka, Pitruloka, all these different lokas. Where do you go? You have your karma, all your account. After this earth, there is no guarantee that you are reborn on this earth. You can go somewhere else. With a totally different body, as they show in Star Wars. And then you have all different objects. Objects are different, all the frequencies are different. That's why they say every loka that you go, not only the objects will be more sophisticated, but also your bodies will be more sophisticated. So that capacity to enjoy is what? More. So you go to all these different lokas in Trisu Dhamasu. Not only on this earth, the enjoyer, the object of enjoyment, and the process of enjoyment is sustained by Atma, but even whoever is experiencing whatever in whichever loka, it is all dependent upon this Atma, with whichever subtle body, whatever the level of object. Trisu Dhamasu, in everything, Swarga, Naraka, Bhuloka, that is the truth of Atma. Whether it is an object on earth or it is an object in the heaven, it all depends upon what? Atma. Whether it is a body on this earth or body in any heaven, whether it is in Devaloka or Pitruloka or whichever loka, Brahmaloka, everything exists in Atma. So that means this localization, somehow after years of Vedanta, people can't give up the orientation of what I means only this. It makes you see what, when Vedanta talks about nature of Atma, what is the magnitude of this Atma that it is talking about. Within time, space, all the different body, so there can be so many lokas that we don't see. So many things going on. Everything exists within. Everything is collapsible in what? Intelligence. And that intelligence has its truth in what? Atma. Awareness. Trisu dhamasu yat bhogyam, and that bhokta. Everything exists in Atma. That is who I am. What about Naraka? People are suffering in Naraka. They have gross bodies. They have all these kind of funny things, that there is fire. They have all these depiction. And then what? You are pushed into fire, and then what happens? You have all this burning sensation and you are suffering and all. Though that bhokta is away from Atma? No. That object through which the person gets pain, is it away from Atma? No. The process through which that particular experience arises, is it away from Atma? No. Different gradations, different experiences by different yonis. The whole thing is sustained by only one Chaitanya. That Chaitanya is the truth. Everything else resolves as a dependent reality. Mithya. Okay, so therefore this is what the verse is saying. So please don't keep your orientation as what? This little individual and say, oh, I'm limitless, and so there is this awareness which is away from this. This is as far as our mind works, right? That oh, I'm this enjoyer, and then there is this awareness which I need to know, which is what? Separate from this enjoyer. Our whole life goes in trying to separate the two. So Shastra is talking at a different level altogether. Everything happens within this Atma. Okay? So, the next verse is Mayyeva Sakalam Jatam. See, Mayyeva Sarvam Pratishtitam, Mayyeva Sarvam Layam Yati, Tad Brahma Advayam Asmi Aham. If you really understand that I am that Atma, Sat Chit Ananda. What is Sat? Existence. What is Chit? The consciousness or awareness. And which has what? Which is limitless. Which has no boundaries. Not only it doesn't have any boundary, but the whole world is what? Dependent upon that awareness. How is it shown here? From which the whole universe comes, by which the whole universe is sustained, and unto which what? The whole universe resolves. What does universe mean? Time, space, and object. What kind of two types of objects? What? Known to you as an individual and unknown to you. How did we resolve everything into awareness? By a methodology which was what? Satyam and Mithya. Every object, starting from what? This table to wood, wood to what? Atoms, atoms to particles, particles to just something non-tangible. Then the whole thing is what? Brought intelligence, and the truth of that intelligence is Chit, awareness. There is. Why is the truth of intelligence awareness?
Because to know you to be aware.
Yeah. Intelligence cannot exist without awareness. Awareness is independent of intelligence. If it applies to this wood, it applies to every object in the universe, not only on this earth. It applies to the stars, it applies to the sun, it applies to the moon. Atoms, particles, intelligence, and awareness. Okay, so therefore the entire Jagat comes from awareness, is sustained while you see all these forms. It's sustained by awareness, and when these forms go, they go back to awareness. The forms keep changing. The forms of the past, present, and future. Do you need to know all the forms? No. The minute you know one form, what happens? You know what applies to all forms. What about time and space? Time also, 1 hour. From 1 hour is what? 60 minutes. 1 minute, 60 seconds. 1 second, microsecond, nanosecond, collapses. The whole thing is just what? Non-tangible, ultimately intelligence, and then Chit. Time resolves in awareness. Space, the same thing. Two objects exist within space. She occupies that point in space. I occupy this point in space. The distance is what? Finite distance of what? 1 foot. What? How many meters? How many meters? 2 meters? 2 meters. 1 meter is how many centimeters? 100. 1 centimeter is? Now I have to check your mathematics. Goes on. Units within units within units within. This is what we call mithya. So that means the rishis sitting under the tree collapsed the whole universe, time, space and object universe, without what? Seeing the whole thing, they collapsed. It's not that they had to what? It's not like all the forms had to disappear. Looking at everything, it collapsed where? Not physical collapse. It's not physical collapse. It is what? Collapses in your understanding. Everything gets resolved in Atma. This is the Atma that Upanishads are talking about. Okay, so he says, now within this time, space and everything which is born, he says, Anoraniyan ahameva tadvat mahan aham Vishwam aham vichitram puratanaha aham purushaha aham ishaha hiranyamayaha aham shiva rupam asmi. The universe has what? Many different objects. What are some objects are very subtle. You need microscope to see them. Sometimes even with microscope you may not be able to see them. That's why we try to have what? More and more powerful microscope to be able to see what? Subtler and subtler things. They just miss our eyes. And our Swamiji used to say, thank God. Because right now on this hand, how many little things are moving, you know? If you were able to see all of that, you will be repulsed. Thank God you can't see it. Aesthetics. Ishvara. Blocking what? Avarana, vikshepa. Some things are blocked, some things are made available. Okay, so therefore, the smallest of the small and biggest of the big. What is the biggest star? Nobody knows. Right? But the big is, sometimes Surya talks about all these galaxies and I don't know what, and I'm like, what are you even to black holes and and he explains all this and I'm like, what? The magnitude of things is just mind-boggling. That big, right? And Atma is what? Sustaining the small and big. But itself is what? Does it have any size? If it had size, when it is big, it cannot be small. And if it is small, it cannot be big. It has to be free from both to appear as both. This is just amazing. Itself is free from size, but within it all the different sizes exist. This is Atma, this is you, not something else. The self-revealing presence. This is what your nature is. Your true nature. Where we start with all our problems, and we think we are no good, and we think, oh, life is so, I'm so stuck in life. This is our vision. What is Shruti's vision about your Atma? It is in which the smallest of the small is sustained and the biggest of the big is sustained. That is your Atma. It is Atma, that is the only thing which is there in this universe. Everything else depends upon Atma. Okay? So therefore it says the entire Jagat, which is Vichitram. Vichitram means infinite varieties. Between that smallest of the tiny bacteria to the galaxies, there are how many different sizes? How many different sizes in between? Countless sizes in between. From that tiny to that big, how many different sizes? Mountain is somewhere in between. Everything is little, all different sizes. Vichitram makes it all varied. It would be boring if everything was just one plain same thing. Imagine if Mithya was all just one thing. It would make it boring. All this Vichitra means all this variety. Flowers. How many varieties of flowers? You don't even know it. If I ask you tell me all the different flowers that exist. You don't know. Right? So that means the countless, that is what we call Sarvagnaha. The intelligence that Sarvagnaha, Sarvashaktiman Ishvara. That awareness with its capacity, with this knowledge and power, it manifests as what? In infinite varieties. Okay? Vichitra Puratanaham aham purushaha aham ishaha hiranyamayaha shiva rupam asmi. The whole possibility is because of what? As Tara says, that intelligence, the whole world is collapsed into the intelligence which is what? Sarvagnaha Sarva Shaktiman Ishvara. What is my relationship with that? My means I, and the I means Chaitanya. Chaitanya's relationship with that Ishvara? Exactly. The status of Ishvara, all knowledge, does it depend upon awareness, or awareness depends upon knowledge? The status of being Ishvara depends upon awareness. But please, our Swamiji was very, very careful. He says, don't use Vedanta to conclude you're bigger than Ishvara. Because Ishvara's truth is also what? Same awareness. So what you can say is, I and Ishvara, which is all knowledge and all power, enjoy the same reality. What is that reality? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Ishvara knows and I don't know. I need grace of Ishvara. The knowledge is from Ishvara and I need grace of Ishvara to understand this reality, the essential non-difference. So here he says, Aham Ishaha. Aham Ishaha, as I told you, is not that I am Bhagwan. That is another problem. Some people start thinking that I am Ishvara at a wrong place. Where is the equation? At what point is a resolution between you and Ishvara? In Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. But there are two different upadhis. What are the two different upadhis? There are two different upadhis. One is Jiva, the individual, and the other one is Ishvara, which is the cause of the universe. What is the difference between that upadhi? Jiva is what? Alpajnaha, Alpa Shaktiman. Little knowledge and little power. Ishvara is what? Sarvajnaha, Sarva Shaktiman. All knowledge and all power. That difference will remain. But luckily, they are only upadhis. They are only, both are appearance on one Chaitanya. Chaitanya is free from both. That's why in spite of those apparent differences, I can what? Resolve it at the right place. The wave, while being the wave, can understand what? That I and the ocean have one truth. What is that one truth? Water. But does it mean that the appearance is the same? No. One appearance is what? One little wave, individual. The other appearance is the ocean, the total. That appearance is different. But both are appearance of what? One water. That water which is appearing as wave and ocean, does it ever become ocean? I mean, does the oceanness stick to the water? No. Does the waveness stick to the water? No. They are appearances. What is water? It always remains what? H2O. Free from both oceanness and waveness. One water with two different upadhis. Okay, so this is where you can say essentially, even though upadhitaha bhedaha. In terms of upadhi, my upadhi is limited. Ishvara upadhi is what? Jagat Karanam. Jagat Karanam means time comes from it, space comes from it, all the different things which are put together comes from it. Different upadhi, but both upadhi are what? Appearances on what? One Chaitanya, which is free from both. This is what the wise person understands. Okay. Now, apani padaha aham achintyam ashaktihi pashyami achakshuhu sa shrunomi akarnaha aham vijanami vivikta rupaha nacha asti veta mama chit sada aham. Okay. Here is very interesting. He says, I am without hands and legs, yet I am of incomprehensible power. I see without eyes, hear without ears. I am different from all. I know everything, but none knows me, who is of the nature of pure knowledge. What does it mean? You need a teacher. Okay. The hands can do the job of holding. But in order for the hand to be, it requires what? That hand itself is what? So many different put together, so many different things put together. What are the different things which put together the hand? What is there now inside this hand? If you open a little bit, you'll be repulsed. There is blood. Immediately you do one cut and blood will start flowing out. So this one hand itself constitutes of so many different parts. What are those parts? What are the parts? Muscles, bones, nerves, right? All that one hand is divided into so many other parts. That itself is what? Cells. Cells, atoms. Atoms, particles. Then intelligence and awareness. He says what? That without being hand, what? I'm able to what? See without eyes. What does it mean? The eyes cannot function without the presence of awareness. But is it in the form of eyes? No. Itself is free from hands and legs, but can hands and legs exist without it? No. Okay, and it can, what it says, hear without ears. So ears can hear, but in order for ears to hear, again what? So many things are put together. Then they are also put together. Then they are also put together. Everything is like that. And that is what? One thing which enables everything, but itself is what? None of it. Without which there is no sight, without which there is no hearing, without which there is no movement of hands and legs, but itself is what? Free from everything. So therefore it says, I am different from all, and then I know everything means what? It's not that I know everything in the sense that what? How is it?
Ishvara also depends on.
Exactly. So if I put my I at the right place, which is what? Not in this body, mind and sense complex, but if I put my I in what? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, then that all-knowing Ishvara is also what? Yeah. That the status of that all knowledge and all power also is dependent. Okay, so therefore, and then, but none knows me who is of the nature of pure knowledge. What does it mean? That there is only one thing in this universe which cannot be objectified, which can never be objectified, but it need not be objectified to be known. Everything else that I have known is by objectification. The whole process of knowing is objectification. This is what I have talked about, all the pramanas. Pramanas means you have to use what? Different means of knowledge to objectify. This is how you know. There is only one presence. Swataha Siddha is a technical term. Don't try to use that word to come to some kind of an experience. It only means that you don't need any pramana to come to know I am. I am is known without using what? Any pramana. For everything else you need what? Pramana. It is what we call self-revealing. The very fact that you say I am shows Atma is self-revealing. It's not some special type of a self-revealing, a self-evident. Some people get stuck wanting to experience self-evident. We are not talking about experience or anything. It is always revealed. The very fact that you mix up your I am with hundreds of things means what? I am is evident to you. The nature of mistake that we make is what? That I am, which is self-evident, is mixed up with things which are evident to me. What are the things which are evident to me? The body, my mind. So what does Shastra do? Shastra is, Swamiji used to say, Shastra is not pramana to make you see, make you understand that you are. You, even before coming to Shastra, you know I am. Shastra doesn't need to tell you that, hey, you are. I am is known to everyone. The fact that your I is loaded with all millions notions means what? You know you are. I am. What does Shastra? It's not a pramana to know that you that I exist. It is a pramana to what? Remove the confusion about what I am. That self-revealing presence gets loaded with limitation. And I live my life with that limitation. Shastra frees that self-revealing presence from limitation and makes me see the true nature of that self-revealing presence.
You say the sense I am, is a sign of the self-revealing presence. So I can consider this. But what is ahankara then? Ahankara is, I thought ahankara is this I sense, I am, which I can combine with different things.
So this is what I said, that in the mind has 4 faculties. Mind has manas, then you have buddhi, you have chittam, and you have ahankara. The problem is that self-revealing presence, which is awareness, gets mixed up with what?
With all the other.
With these are all variables.
But ahankara is not a variable.
It is variable, constantly variable. One day I'm feeling good, next day I'm not feeling good. It's all variable.
Yeah, but it's the combination of ahankara with all different identifications with the body, with the mind.
And it's constantly in a flux. Your eye sense undergoes so many changes and is constantly changing. It depends upon if the mind is thinking about, let's say, happy movement, what will you say? That one function is what? The emotion. The almost simultaneously what happens is you tell I am happy. Then next minute your mind undergoes a change. And then you say what? Yeah, I'm unhappy. Now this I sense keeps on, it doesn't only identify with emotions, it also whatever is in the cognitive capacity also gets imputed on that I am. Then whatever is stored in the memory also gets imputed to I am. So even though it's in a constant flux, it seems like a solid entity. There is no solidness to this I am. And all that is the faculty. What we are talking about is not this faculty when we are talking about self-revealing prayer. This is the nature of the problem. You can't get out of that is the nature of problem. You continue to keep your eye only in these faculties. As long as you keep on keeping that eye in that faculty, you are making it what? Your Atma can never be limitless. That faculty is a very frivolous faculty. There is a very limited faculty. This is the nature of mistake with which we have been living for what? Cycles of creation. There is this self-revealing presence which we miss out, which is independent of this faculty. But the fact is that you come with, you can't separate. Separation means what? You will make Atma as one object within time and space. You can never separate. That's why you need to use pramana to free it. If you physically try to separate, what are you doing? There is time and space in which two are mixed up and you are separating the two. What will you do? You will make Atma into one object within time and space. So any attempt on your part to physically separate the two.
Now, normally when I say I am, I mean the ahankara, and it's not the self-revealing Atma for me. So if I say I am, I cannot take it as a proof normally if I don't have listened to Shastra.
Yeah, true.
That I'm Atma,
Yeah.
because I just mean the ahankara.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is what we do. Exactly. We
And
continue
because
to.
and then it's not self-revealing to me, I need Shastra. Because otherwise I stick with this ahankara.
I don't understand. What you are saying is right. What is the question? I don't understand.
I am. You're saying that you connect that to ahankara. When you're saying, therefore, Atma is not self-evident, right?
For me, yes.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
But the Atma is not, the ahankara is not separate from the Atma. So when you're saying I am for even ahankara, there is the Atma along with it.
Exactly.
Which is already revealing because you're already connecting, because the Ahankara is not separate from Atma.
So that means that in order for you to say,
Covered.
Yeah.
So it's not
What
self-revealing.
she's saying, still you have the Shastras, I'll never know, which is true.
which is true.
But that's why it's independent.
Exactly. It is that self-revealing thing is mixed up with ahankara. And that's why you see it only as ahankara and you don't see anything other than that. It's true. Just to tell you, it's interesting that Albert Einstein made a statement. He made a statement that this whole world is undivided. But we live in an optical illusion and we draw an artificial boundary and we give what? Confinement of I to only this much. By giving that location, what am I doing? Something which is undivided, I make it what? As though divided. And then he says, the rest of the life we live in that imprisonment. Imagined imprisonment. There is an optical illusion. And it keeps me what? That something which is undivided. It's like this optical illusion makes what? This space confined. But what is the reality? Space is undivided whole. Shastra frees this from this confinement. The very fact that it has confinement is what? It's an arrangement which makes it seem like that. But it's not the truth. The very presence of Sukshma Sharira, because of which, what have we seen so far? Please understand what I am talking about. The very presence of Sukshma Sharira is from what? Intelligence. Because of which you are able to have eye sense. The time and space in which that Sukshma Sharira exists is also coming from awareness. What? The whole arrangement is from this awareness. There is no question of what you're having eye sense without the presence of this awareness. And that awareness is self-revealing. It is not produced, because of which everything else comes into being. Don't think that that a self-revealing presence comes only after Shastra. It's always there. The mix-up doesn't enable us to see it. That's why you have to use Shastra to see it. Okay, so therefore this everything happens within itself is of the nature of awareness. Vedena ekema ahameva vedyaha vedanta krudeva vedeva chaham na punya pape mama nasti nasho na janmaha dehendriya buddhihi asti. Okay, the whole, how do you undo this confusion? As Gabi was saying, everybody's comes with this I sense, and that I sense is what? In your ahankara. How will you ever get out of it? But wherever there is I sense, there is Atma. I sense is not independent of Atma. Okay? So therefore, you need Veda as a pramana. To this intricate confusion into which we are, and the whole jumbling of everything, what will make us undo that? Something which is limitless is given location. And it is given so much reality that even not before Shastra, so you continue to what? Live your life thinking this is what you are. Even after the Shastra tells you, how long does it take to actually understand what Shastra is saying? Takes a long time. Why? Because we are what? So deeply entrenched in what we call avidya. It says what? One given optical illusion that we are born with. What is the optical illusion? This awareness seems to be what? In fact, I don't even know there is awareness. I only know body and mind. Right? Whole life. Then the Shastra says, hey, the body is an object. Mind and its different thoughts are objects. There is one thing which is an invariable presence. That's the first time I even come to know that there is something other than body and mind. There is this invariable presence. Then to figure out that that presence is the truth of the whole universe. How long does it take? It takes a while, but imagine you were trying to figure it out yourself. When will you figure it out? Some people said, oh, if rishis got it, why can't I get it? Rishis sat under the tree, so I can also go and sit under the tree. True, technically it's true. It is like saying, exactly, it is like saying, why should I go to school? If Einstein could figure out laws of gravity, I can also technically figure out. True. But that would be foolishness. How does Ishvara work? How does Ishvara work? When Einstein discovered something, not only he saw something, he also came up with methodology to communicate. What can I do? I can help myself to this methodology to see what Einstein saw. Knowledge is transferred. Okay? Vedanta is a means of knowledge. Rishis saw, but what they saw, they wrote. They wrote to take you out from your rut of self-disapproval. Small sense, frustrations, being lost in life, not knowing what to do. From there, it takes you to where? Okay? This is the biggest blessing to humanity. This knowledge, you can't compare any other knowledge to this knowledge. This is why in one of the Shruti, it is said, Shruti is like thousands of mothers. Generally, mother loves the child. Generally, there are exceptions. And mother is spontaneously what? Doing things which is what? Something which is good for the child. It's given. That's the first time Swamiji used to say, it's very important to, in your emotional growth, to have kids, because when you have kids, for the first time, you care for somebody more than what you care for yourself. It gives you an opportunity to become big. Come out of your what? That self-centeredness, where the well-being of the child becomes so important for you, more important than your own well-being. So many people do so many things to protect the children. Okay, so that is natural and spontaneous. How kind Shruti is to give you this knowledge which takes you out of what? It's like 1,000 mothers put together. That is the level of blessing of this knowledge. It takes you, there is a beautiful, it takes you from what? Asatoma Sadgamaya. From the whole confusion to the reality. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. You are asking. Okay? It takes you from what? Darkness of ignorance to light of knowledge. Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. From mortality, it takes you to immortality. What a contribution. Vedanta Shastra. Okay, so therefore this pramana, and this is why certain respect for this pramana, certain respect for this tradition is very, very important. You need to preserve it. You can't totally devoid, you can't make your whole lecture devoid of Sanskrit. You have to give it its right place. This is where it comes. You can't just eliminate and you give me that. You can't do that. This is the place. You have to give, you have to acknowledge. There are a lot of people who tell Surya that when you go to management schools, you can give Vedanta, but don't tell them it is Vedanta. And you talk as though what? You've come up with all this? You have to what? You have to give it the right place. This is the source. You can't just say, forget that. And this is the biggest blessing that is available to humanity. You have to give it respect. Our teacher used to say, there are some students even during the 3.5-year course allergic to Sanskrit. Because it's very difficult. You have to, it's like mathematics, you have all very complex grammar. So everybody says, Swamiji, we love Vedanta, but we don't like Sanskrit. He says the whole tradition is what? That is very much part. You can't just eliminate. You do a big disservice. When a treasure is given to you, you have to learn how to respect that treasure. Can't take it for granted. Anybody who will tell me to talk about Vedanta with camouflaging and saying, yeah, just talk without acknowledging that this is from Upanishads and from Gita, will never do it. Some people said, oh, why don't you talk about Vedanta without Ishvara? No way. Why? Oh, because some audiences are allergic to Ishvara. They don't want to think about Ishvara. They only are interested in I am. You distort the tradition. When you distort the tradition, what happens? There is a decline. All this we learned from Swamiji. Don't be afraid. If you have truth with you, it has its own strength. You're not giving classes to please others and give them what they want to hear. You are giving classes because you have something invaluable to communicate. If they are not ready, too bad. You don't change your content to please others. Ask a physicist to change the content to please somebody. Will he do it? He'll laugh at you. Okay? Vedanta, in order for the Shruti to work for you, you have to have right place for the Shruti. And you have to see the contribution of the Shruti. Shruti means all the Upanishads and Gita. You can't strip it off of its richness. Okay? So therefore, this Veda is a pramana and it takes you from what? Punya and Papa to this. Punya and Papa is what? Karma and Karma Phala. Action and result. The unseen result of good action is Punya. Unseen result of an inappropriate action is Papa. You are within that Punya Papa model till the time that you understand what? I am free from both. So it disintegrates all your Sanchita Karma, which is in the form of Punya and Papa. Anadi Kala, Punya and Papa disintegrates with Jnanagni Dagdha Karmani. There is a saying. The fire of knowledge, what? Burns all the karma, both Punya and Papa. Okay, now 23rd verse. Now I'm way past. Shall we do it in the afternoon? Yes, we are, because all of us are there. So I will just do just 2 more remaining. I'll do it this afternoon. You want to finish? It's too much. We can do it this afternoon. Yeah. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.